officially live on Facebook for the Thursday edition of the Not Your Average Investor Show, the JWB Rental Liquor Property of the Week. I'm your host, Pablo Gonzalez. With me, as always, the man that I affectionately like to call GC because he's got genius concepts, knows how to generate cash flow. He's a great co-host, and his name is Gregg Cohen. Say hello, Gregg.
Hello, everybody. Did you choke on something over there, buddy?
It's a hairball. And in studio today, we also have the magnificent, your community manager, Madison the Magnificent. Say hello, Madison.
Hello, everybody.
And we are welcoming you, our community, trickling in, checking in on the chat. And if you are just tuning in on a podcast or YouTube and you just got a heavy dose of Cohen energy, we suggest you come tap into the source, get it live. Go to nyais.com, join us live, have a good time with us, and be part of the what?
The roll call.
The roll call. Let's do this. All right, we got Madison checking in, saying welcome to the Not Your Average Investor Show. We got the leadoff hitter, John Hanning, saying good afternoon and all. We got the ringmaster of the Not Your Average Investor Show community, Drew Barnhill, checking in, saying good afternoon. We got the MVP of the Not Your Average Investor Show community, Lee Bishop, saying good afternoon. Everyone glad to be back in the office after some great training. Glad to have you back, Lee. We got Leo Baraganan.
Dun, dun, na, na, na.
Baraganan.
Dun, dun, na, dun.
Saying good morning from the all from the Bay Area, California. Let's rock. We got Tony D in the house. Anthony Dida saying hello, friends. Welcome back, Tony D. We got Dean Curry, who hasn't been with us for a minute since he had his big appearance on the show here, saying missed you all, greetings from Columbus, Ohio. Who else we got? We got Nadeem Shah from the West Coast with his characteristic good afternoon, good morning, everybody. We got Pedro from Jersey checking in. Welcome, Pedro. We got Louis Hudnall. Good morning from Milipitas.
The most fun name to mispronounce. Milipitas.
Most fun name to mispronounce. We got Marilyn Cotterman from Homa, Sasa, Florida.
Home of the manatees,
Saying
baby.
good afternoon at JWB family. Good to have you. We got Ken Moline and Carolyn Moline, the patriarch and matriarch of the first family of the Not Your Average Investor Show.
We salute you.
We salute you. You got that right, GC. I'm very proud of you, buddy. Who else? We got Jag Chad is back. Welcome back, Chad. My writing partner at the last
Meetup.
meetup.
There you go.
I'm having a problem. Somebody's checking in with a Motorola Edge Plus. You don't
All
have
right,
your name in there.
Motorola Edge.
Motorola
Way
Edge.
to go. Welcome to the show.
Welcome all the way from Japan. Motorola Edge Plus. Good to have you. We got Aaron O'Neill checking in. The light shining bright.
Into the light.
Into
Aaron
the
O'Neill.
lights. Aaron O'Neill. Hello, Pablo and Greg. Good to have you back. Aaron, we got the man that everyone knows as Noah Randari. Greetings from California. Who else we got in here? All right. I think we did this.
Bring the fire.
And now to my favorite segment. Madison shares good news.
I love how you point to me like they know we're right across from each other. Anyway, all right, everybody. Some really cool news this week. As you all know, here at JWB, we have some really cool core values. One of my favorites is finding better ways to better people or better lives. So I think both of these go hand in hand with that. One way is a client since 2020, her name is Donna, sent a really nice note over to her portfolio manager, Caitlin. And Caitlin was cool enough to share with us. She reads, because of JWB, I can enjoy my month-long vacation in the Philippines without any worries. Along with that, she shared some awesome pictures of her and her husband swimming with whale sharks, which is on my bucket list, and also visiting the Komodo Island, which is the home of the Komodo dragons.
Ooh.
Yes. So she was super thankful to us, and which warms our heart because we want to find better ways to better lives. Super cool, Donna. Thank you for sharing. Another way that JWB as a company and the leadership team finds better ways to better lives is for their teammates and everybody that works here. And it shows because JWB was named one of the best places to work again on the first coast.
Hey-yo.
So that is good news today, everybody.
You brought the fire, Madison. I tell you what, that good news we have been blessed to win a few awards here at JWB. Pablo loves this one the most, by the way. This is the hardware that Pablo, makes me. He tells me that I can't not have it around because he wants to be able to do this. But I'll tell you, there's an award. This is the Entrepreneur of the Year award that we were blessed to win today. I'm telling you, there's an award that's a lot more important than that. And that's Best Places to Work. And we are now recipients of this award for 8 years. This is the 8th time we've won the Best Places to Work award in Jacksonville. And that means so much, so much. The reason why people choose to do business with us is because of our team and the experience, and that's driven by the team. So,
yep. And the reason the team wants to work here and does well is because they make it such an awesome work environment. So
well, that's pretty awesome to hear. So Madison, way to bring the fire, my friend.
Of course.
Madison, that is good news.
It's good news.
All right. For the record, GC, I do fawn all over that piece of hardware over there, and I'm upset that you haven't made an amulet out of it. But the Best Places to Work award is something that I deeply, deeply, deeply admire, and it has been my involvement here with JWB that has made me understand the importance of workplace culture as a strategic advantage over all other business strategies.
Yeah.
As far as a customer standpoint, as far as attracting talent and becoming a talent destination, I deeply, deeply admire that, man. So I don't want to skip over that.
Well, thank you. And for all of us out there, or entrepreneurs or who work at a company or people of influence at a company, right? The reason why we invest so much in our culture, and the reason why we give away all of our business strategies as well, we've done this from the very beginning. We continue to do it. That's really what the show is about, is because business strategies can be replicated and duplicated. There's usually nothing, at least in this space, there's really nothing that's proprietary that you can't go and do, right? But you can't replicate culture. When you build a culture like we have and like you have with your organization and many organizations that we've been a part of who are, friends and tuning into the show, you build a moat around your business, right? When your team and your experience is that so much better than what your other options are as an investor, right? You create a moat around your business that's very hard to penetrate. And that's been the core business strategy of JWB from the very beginning.
I'm all in on it, man. I love that. And with that, I believe that we got some breaking news, GC.
I can't wait to see what the breaking news is next week too, because I feel like this is just getting longer and more beeps every time.
I never realized that I could continue to make it more ridiculous until very recently. So I very much look forward to it.
Whoever's typing in the Morse code on that beep, beep, beep is just like a lot of caffeine at a certain point. We're going to keep this breaking news good train going, good news train that Madison started here. I'm going to give you some breaking news that is just so very cool for the 1,300 plus clients that we have that own these turnkey rental properties. A lot of times on the show, we're talking to new investors, and sometimes we get to talk to the folks that have been owning properties for a while. Well, this message is for all of you, for all of you who own rental properties with JWB. This year we have set a record when it goes from the time that your home moves out to the time that we re-rent your property, right? We have set a record in re-rent percentage, the best we have ever done. And yes, a lot of this is driven by the market and that this is a great time to rent properties, but I guarantee you other property management companies aren't getting this type of re-rent increase percentage that we're getting at JWB. So it is a big credit to the hard work and the passion of the JWB property management team. But we ran the numbers, and through the middle of July this year, which is when we ran the numbers, every time your home moves out, your resident moves out of your home, when you go and get a new resident in place now, on average, you have about an 18% increase in your rents. Wow. An 18% increase. Now, you know that we don't want move-outs, right? Long-term resident stays are clearly the way to win in rental properties, but it's going to happen every single time. And what it does is when that move-out happens, there is certainly a silver lining to know that right now, when that happens, you're able to get dramatically more rent coming in when that home gets re-rented. I will caution this a little bit. I don't expect this type of re-rent percentage to continue. I expect it to go down because a lot of times we have long-term leases in place and you've seen dramatic rent increases over the last year or two. And so some of that is playing into that. So I don't expect this to be the new standard, but we're going to celebrate this because 18% on average over 4,700 rental properties that we manage is a lot more passive income coming to each and every single one of you.
That's beautiful, man. I'm looking forward to my re-rent increase once I get past this turn that I have coming up. Is re-rent different than renewal? No. So even if you are renewing the same resident in-house, right now, the average is 18% increase.
You know what? I'm sorry. I misspoke there. Yes, it is different.
Got it.
So re-rent is not renewal.
Okay.
So re-rent means that we did not renew your resident and then we go back to the market rent and do that. For renewals, it's actually 14%. So it's not that different.
Yeah. Plus no turn cost.
Yes, exactly. We still want renewals.
Yeah.
Even though you're 14% higher in renewals, you're 18% higher in re-rents, which is where we do not get a renewal.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Drew says that he's looking at plus 50% increase in the current turn he's doing now. Wow. That's a
50%?
50 is 50. It's
Holy cow, Drew. That's awesome. That might be a record.
That's pretty epic.
We like that.
Jack Chatta says, does that mean that the return on new homes is also going up?
That means that the return on new homes is going. I'm trying to see where Jack's coming from there. This isn't having an impact on the return on investment as far as expectations for new homes. This would have an effect on whether it's a new home or a renovation as far as increasing your return on investment for those who purchased in the past and now are getting significantly more rent than we projected on the evaluation. So no difference from new home to renovations there. But yeah, this is a great thing for all of us who buy and hold and benefit from all 5 profit centers.
Got it. And if I was to reinterpret Jack's question, maybe we got it wrong there. Maybe he's saying, does that mean that new investors, the pro forma that you're putting in front of people, is that percentage going up? But I see it as this is more like an over deliver moment.
Yeah. Right? I'm glad you pointed that out. No, we're not making any changes to the expectations as far as what future rent increases are going to be. We go very, very slowly when we change big data points like that, even in the face of much higher rents over the last few years and much higher rent increases over the last few years on the evaluation, which we'll probably look at here at some point today. You're going to see an expected rent increase of 3.3% per year. And that is data going all the way back since 1985. And that is the best way to go into this asset class. Think long-term, look long-term, make projections based on long-term, and then work with a partner like JWB, and hopefully we can beat it.
Got it. And she says that was it. Right. Thank you, Jack. I appreciate that. And I am sorry that I keep butchering that one.
I thought so.
I'm terribly embarrassed. I also mistook you for my ride-along partner at the beginning. That was Raj Bantu at the meetup. So I am
You're on fire today.
I am not doing well, and I feel terrible about that. And I'm also feeling very Japanese today because we are going to 7275 Honda Drive. Ready? Oh, yeah, I usually tee this thing up. We're magically whisking ourselves away here to 7275 Honda Drive, Jacksonville, Florida, 32222. I feel like I'm yelling into the microphone. I apologize.
Oh, you're passionate, baby.
I'm overly excited today. Beautiful new construction home. Property details here. We got an estimated ROI of 12.36%. Purchase price of $285,000. Monthly rent of $1,753. 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom. What's that one? Oh, 1,760 square feet. Annual vacancy rate of 3%, annual maintenance rate of 4%, and an annual appreciation rate of 4.6%. But what I want to know, GC, is what do you love about this property?
I thought you'd never ask. I'll tell you what I love about this property. Let's start with the thing that you're probably looking at right now and jumps off the page at you. This is a brand new construction home. And for those who are friends of the show, just know that I love new construction and I love renovations, and that's what I have in my portfolio. But I'll tell you something that I love about new construction is that over time, you're going to have slightly lower maintenance costs for new construction homes. And maintenance costs and vacancy costs are the biggest pain points for you as an investor. So when you see an opportunity to invest in a brand new construction home, I probably don't need to be the one to tell you this, but over time, you're going to see things break a little bit less often. And so that's a really wonderful thing to have those lower maintenance costs. I wanted to point out something here on our new construction homes, many of our new construction homes, and this is one way that we produce more positive cash flow for you, is that this home does not have an HOA. Normally, when you are seeing a new construction home, most people just assume that there's a homeowners association and that there's homeowner association dues. Those dues would take away part of your positive cash flow. And one of our strategies is that the neighborhoods that we invest in Jacksonville, we can build new construction homes and they do not have HOA dues as a part of the equation there. That's not every new construction home. And that's not to say that if you invest in a brand new home and it does have an HOA, that's a bad thing. It just says that right here, we have that opportunity to do it and the numbers work. And it's more positive cash flow because we don't have an HOA. So that's something that's really cool. We haven't talked a lot about lack of HOAs as being a reason to be able to get positive cash flow, but I thought that was wonderful. Talk about the return on investment, over 12% is really high. One thing that everybody needs to keep in mind is like right now, if you're looking for two things, if you're looking for consistency and stability in an asset, if you're looking for your money to be consistent and stable, and you're looking to beat inflation, you're having a really hard time doing that. You're having a really hard time doing one of the two of those. If you can do both of those, that's definitely something that is really attractive right now. And that's what we have with investing in single family rental properties, of course, with JWB as your vertically integrated provider. So keep that in mind. And then the last note that I put here is what you can see at the bottom of the evaluation here. JWB is helping out with interest rates right now. Interest rates have risen to a historic level, or at least the rise has been historic. It's been 2.5 percentage points in a span of a couple of months. I mean, we haven't seen that type of rise in 41 years in our country. And it's really, really tough for all of us to accept that fact. And so JWB is helping here. And what we're doing is we are actually buying down the interest rate for the client that purchases this home, or any client that purchases a new home, new meaning a new or renovated home, just puts a new home under contract here and closes by October 15th. And the reason why this show and this message and this property is so important is that if you want to take advantage of that, you do need to close by the middle of October. It takes, 30, 45, 60 days to actually close on a loan. And so if you want to put this home under contract and get this incentive, you got to do it now. You got to do it like today. You got to do it in the next few days, right? If you start to go into next week and the week after to actually make your decision to buy, chances are that you're probably not going to be able to receive the incentive because the bank's just slow and they won't be able to get you closed in time by October 15th. So it's in your wheelhouse right now. This opportunity for us to buy down your rate will drop your interest rate by up to 0.25%. And so we've already seen interest rates get a little bit of relief right now. Well, JWB is helping to that fact, and that's going to put over $600 a year additional in cash flow into your pocket just on this property, just by the interest rate decreases of what's happened recently, plus JWB's help there. So for all these reasons, I do love this property on Honda.
Oh, I thought you'd never tell me. I got some questions, but we already have a Q&A here from the MVP of the community, and we love to incentivize questions. So I hope that y'all keep firing them away, see what you're finding, because I'm seeing a couple things I want to ask about. But Lee Bishop, MVP, says, looks like the tax is high, but that is commensurate with the cost of the home. But is this in a neighborhood that is mostly transitioned from C to B class?
So I'm looking at the property taxes here. This one we're estimating at about $3,600 a year. And if you look at most new construction homes, especially on the west side of Jacksonville, which is where this is, they're right there, $3,500, $3,600, maybe higher, $3,900. Very normal for new construction. So I'd say you're right in line there. Your question is this a neighborhood that's transitioned from C to B? No, I don't think so. I mean, I think this is a below middle income neighborhood. The reason why I'm kind of like saying what I think here is because this whole B, C, type of neighborhood, it's so subjective, right? So the way that I would objectively tell you if this is a B or a C neighborhood is I would look at what the median income is, I would look at what the median home sales price is across Jacksonville, which right now is about $365,000. And then, take half of that. What's that? What's 365? That's 180. Right. So if you're at 180, that's kind of like your lower quartile, your 25% quartile. Just take anything below that. I mean, that's your low income, right? from your 25% quartile to your 50% quartile, from your 180 to 360 purchase price, you're largely below middle income. Right. And then as you get closer to 360 and you go above, you're more in your kind of like, average middle income, getting closer to above average middle income type of home, which would be kind of like a B neighborhood. So, we love these neighborhoods that are below middle income because that's where the 5 profit centers work best for you. And this would be that below middle income type neighborhood that's been serving our clients well since 2006.
When I hear below middle income, I hear workforce housing.
Yeah.
Right. Like I think of, I don't know why you don't use that term more often, to be perfectly honest.
True.
Because every time I've ever been in a city, it's always been like, we need more workforce housing. And I feel like you guys have gotten really good at creating that and satisfying that need that happens in every growing market. So a little advice for you, GC.
I think that's
that's
very good advice. It's totally the truth. It's like we're fighting ourselves there by not saying workforce
Help
housing.
me help you, buddy.
Well done.
All right. So that being said, there is a whole kind of talk here in the chat about HOAs. I'm going to get to that in a second. But what I see is 285. It's going up, huh? Like I feel like not that long ago, most of the properties we're putting on the show were like in the 220, 230, 240 range. And it's been a couple of homes now in a row that are in the high 200s.
Yeah.
Is that a trend?
That is a trend.
Yeah.
That is real. This home is a lot bigger than other homes. So if you can get a home at like 230, 240, 250, that still does exist. But here, this is 1,760 square feet. Other homes will be your, 1,200, 1,229, maybe your 1,530 square feet homes. And so, but yeah, I mean, for a 1,760 square foot home, this is what that neighborhood costs.
Yep. There you go.
It's the realness.
I'm just thinking about it. Like my last home was a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom around this size in Arlington, and it was 225.
Yeah.
So
now it's a
so that's why, yeah, it was a minute.
Yep.
12.36% return on investment. That also seems like it's ticked up a little bit. Is that already baking in this buy down thing?
That is not. I'm glad you picked up on that because our returns on investment have actually ticked up a little bit recently, right? It does not include this buy down thing. It does not include the buy down thing.
The buy down thing.
That's a technical term. What it does include is the relief that we have seen from interest rates outside of the buy down thing. So on our evaluations, if you are tuning in, or if you go and look on JWBinventory.com, which is where we feature all of our properties of the week. If you go and you look back there 3 weeks ago, and you looked at the expected interest rate, it'd be 6.38%. And then over the last week or 2 weeks or so, we made that adjustment so that now the expected interest rate is only 6%. And so that change has actually impacted positive cash flow in a great direction, more positive cash flow, as well as bumped up returns. It's bumped up returns about 0.5%. And so if you take advantage of the incentive, that is only going to add to more positive cash flow and only going to increase the expected return on investment even that much more.
Got it. Cool. So in my head, I'm just thinking like I bought this home for like 225. It's about this size. Interest rate just went down. Like I assume that interest rates right now, it's a temporary down, but I do see myself like in time, I'm already seeing an ability to like take equity out of home and buy more homes in a very short amount of time. Am I thinking incorrectly there? If the interest rates keep ticking down?
Well, I mean, you do have equity in the home that you bought because you continued to listen to the show. You bought at the right time when the signals were that home prices were going to continue to go up. Guess what? The signals are that home prices are still going to go up from now. The only thing I'm going to caution from that, even though it has worked for you on the 3 properties you purchased, you have equity in all of them pretty much as soon as you kind of bought those homes or very soon thereafter. That's not normal. And so for new folks coming in, I don't want that to be the expectation where it's like you buy it today and you already have equity. Because that was a time where you were putting properties under contract and they had long closing periods.
That's true.
Right? You were putting properties under contract many times before the home was renovated and before the home was built. And that gave you time for the market to appreciate at a really high rate. And you walked in with equity day one.
Yeah. Well, me personally, I bought occupied homes, right? Like
True.
So not really.
Well, I know the first one that you bought was occupied. All three of them were occupied.
All three of them, yeah.
Yeah.
All three of them were occupied.
Yeah. Still, I mean, there's a period in time when you put it under contract,
yeah.
when it's priced for
Yeah,
us, and then you
yeah.
put it under contract, and then you close 2 or 3 months later.
Okay.
And when the market's going up, 20% a year, that's going up 2%
Yeah, it's
a month, so.
because I'm referencing the one that I got in March.
Yeah.
Like I'm not referencing the one I got at the beginning of 2021.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Marilyn's got a great question here that I'm not so sure. Is this IRR or ROI, GC?
Great question. It is your internal rate of return. And I just love that our audience is so educated to even ask that question. IRR is a form of determining your return on investment. And so just to keep it simple, you're always going to see me reflect return on investment because that's less scary for people. Just know that these are always your 10-year IRRs. These are always built out, understanding the timing of the cash flows, which is really, really important because most turnkey operators do not actually build in those costs and that time that it took you to get those. But for us, and just to keep it simple, you're always going to see return on investment.
Yeah. And a lot of these questions. So we've been simplifying this process for me because I have limited mental ability to keep everything going here. So we've been showing this spreadsheet, but it's clear that Lee understands that if you go to jwbinventory.com, you can download the spreadsheet that ties into all of this. And you look on the spreadsheet, it says IRR as well, and you can fudge around with the numbers. So if you're listening on the podcast, you're on the show, we've put it in the chat. But if you're listening on the podcast, go to jwbinventory.com. You can follow along at home. This is the 10-year IRR of 12.36%. I think that's it as far as my questions go, but Roger Evans right on time with a question in the Q&A. He says, this home appears to be constructed out of wood with a question mark. Why not concrete construction, which is less expensive and more durable in the long run?
Yeah, it is more durable in the long run to have concrete block. Couple things to take into account here. If you go into Jacksonville and you see how homes are constructed in Jacksonville, especially in below middle income or middle income type neighborhoods, almost without exception, it's wood frame. So wood frame here is accepted, whereas you go in other parts of the country, like for example, in Miami.
Miami is all concrete.
It's all concrete, right? Well, part of that is because of the housing codes, and part of that is because of hurricanes, right? And I don't want to talk too much about our hurricane percentage here in Jacksonville, but it's way low. I'll talk about it. We haven't ever had a direct hit from a major hurricane in Jacksonville, ever. Mm-hmm. And the last hit that we had was back in 1964. And that was a Category 1 hurricane, if I remember. I think that was Hurricane Dora. Yep. And so we do not have the type of scale, or it's not as common to have these hurricanes. And so, the building codes and the insurance companies and everybody feel very confident about wood frame construction here in Jacksonville, providing that durability that you're looking for. Why don't we do concrete block? Because it's a lot more expensive. And your return on investment would be a lot less if you invested in a turnkey property and required it to be concrete block.
There you go. Jag has a question that is near and dear to my heart. She asks, I would love to buy more homes with you, but I have a question about investing in buy and hold 15 plus years properties in Jacksonville with regard to rising sea levels and changing climate. Any thoughts? Because large real estate investors are now factoring climate change into their investments. Yeah,
I think it's something that we all need to pay attention to. I think there's more questions than answers as far as what those impacts are going to be. But here are some things that mitigate your risk a little bit, Jag. We aren't investing in properties with the last name beach, right? Jacksonville does have a beach. It does have a river, but none of your investments are going to be on the river or on the beach. If you look at JWB's neighborhoods, Jag, and I would just encourage you, if you haven't met with the team and actually sat down and looked at the neighborhoods of where you can invest, we can show you a map of where all the investments are. And these are in neighborhoods that are very established neighborhoods. They are inland neighborhoods. There's the west side, which is where Honda Drive is, and that's many miles away from the nearest water source, meaning the nearest river or the nearest, the beach is like a 30-minute drive away from here. So you have some natural protection there from climate change. And all of our neighborhoods are that way, whether it's the north side, whether it's the west side, south side, or Arlington. You just don't have that same risk of climate change that you have in other markets that are on the water.
Yeah, Jag, and I know that you come here often. I'm not sure if you've ever heard me get on my soapbox about it, right? But before I became a marketer, I was a green building expert, right? Like I was a green building consultant. So my company became a director of sustainability for a developer in South Florida. I'm really passionate about climate, and I'm very, very informed. One of the reasons I moved to Jacksonville is because not everywhere in the world, not everywhere on the eastern seaboard is going to get affected by rising sea levels and climate change in the same way. South Florida, which is what we hear mostly about when you're reading in the news, has a very particular issue surrounding climate change. And it's the fact that it sits atop a porous aquifer. And what that means is that when the seas rise, it's not just going to come from the shoreline, it's going to come from underneath the ground. And like you're already seeing like sunny day flooding and all these different things. And that's all going to happen south of Lake Okeechobee, right? That's where that's like underground river happens on top of a limestone aquifer, which is porous like Swiss cheese, right? So my giant thesis on this all is, number one, the issues that Jacksonville is going to have with regard to sea level rise are not any different than Manhattan or Amsterdam or, any of these other places. And the idea that we know how to live by being able to keep the ocean out from coming onshore from the outside in has been figured out by engineering, right? Like things are going to have to adapt and this and that. And it's going to be more expensive in some places than others, but that part's been figured out by engineering. The stuff that's going to happen in South Florida, we do not have a solution for it yet. And I honestly believe that and I love that you brought up this idea that I don't love it because it's bad news, right? But investors should be pricing climate change and sea level rise into their decision making. And I can tell you that 5 years ago, nobody was doing that in Miami, and it was driving me insane. And I had to get out of town because I didn't want to invest my living into 30 years of a place down there, right? So what I believe is that climate change is actually going to be an advantage for Jacksonville investors, because as Miami gets disrupted, as south of Lake Okeechobee gets disrupted, people are going to move north to the closest places that aren't affected by the same phenomenon that everybody else is on the same time schedule on, right? So I believe that in our lifetime, there is going to be a mass migration from below Lake Okeechobee north, and Jacksonville stands to gain as like the first market that people are all going to start moving to because it's the closest to home.
Interesting.
So
I think it's the first time that you've like actually gone all the way through that thought with that mass migration coming up because of this and the population growth that would result from this.
Oh, I thought,
or maybe
I feel like I've mentioned it before, right? But you're right. Yes, I do believe that there is going to be a migration, and we are stop number one. Drew's saying, how far north is this aquifer? Lake Okeechobee, right? Like it's that river before we drained all of it. Lake Okeechobee just kind of like overflowed and was like a south flowing, like giant massive river. And then we drained all like the northern Everglades and all that stuff. So that's just not a natural occurrence. And that's going to come back as sea level rise happens.
Interesting.
Right. So, also Marilyn's putting in the chat that I moved here to surf, and that's true. And one of the reasons why surfing is so good here is because there's like a funny weather pattern of wind that happens from the south of like South Carolina that pushes offshore wind, which is good for surfing. And when when I look at the statistics of hurricanes never really hitting Jacksonville straight on, I have to believe that it has to be because of that, that buoyant force of like wind that's just kind of always seems to push it out. Yeah. So anyways, that's my soapbox.
Man, I love that. I mean, I don't think I love that. That is that's a really big deal. I know a lot of people are concerned about climate change. I just think that that's some pretty cool information. So thank you for sharing that.
Oh, thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
It was awesome. I can tell you're passionate. You should see this guy. If you ever show up with a plastic bottle, just run. If this guy's in your room, he is going to look down at you with scorn.
It's true. It's true.
Not really.
It's true. It's funny, man. I've started to, how like I have these KPIs on life, right? Like, and I have like this like spiritual KPI of how many times a week I'm surf. No, I'm like a physical KPI of how many times a week I surf, and a spiritual KPI of how many times a week I get a phone call from somebody like, yo, man, I got this idea and I want to run it past you because you're a really creative dude. I've started to add another KPI, which is how many people tell me that they bought a reusable water bottle because they can't stand listening to me. they can't stand listening to me like beat them up about using reusable plastic all the time.
Yeah, there you go.
Unreusable plastic all the time.
Well, count me in that list. I've actually dramatically changed the way that I live and use my resources, right? And water's one example of it. So you've improved my life, bro, in many ways.
I love that, buddy. I appreciate that. So with all that being said,
Where were we?
I think it's been a pretty good show. I think this has been a pretty good show. I wanna use this time, since there's no Q&A, to talk about this idea that and Gregg is probably not ready for me to share, but we're about to try to increase the size of the audience for the show by putting together a television show.
Yeah.
Right? It's a bit of an infomercial, but it's going to get distributed in the geographies that are most, condensed, are more dense with JWB investors.
Mm-hmm.
And we're right now formulating this idea of, we're going to do a version of this that's going to be on TV, and it's going to be like special edition of the Not Your Average Investor Show. And we're trying to figure out kind of like, what are the 3 things that is the most interesting things for us to talk about, that maybe you all didn't, think about, or you needed to know before it made sense for you to invest in real estate, and invest in rental properties and invest in Jacksonville. And, we're kind of working right now with this idea of, workforce housing being this attractive asset, the idea that if you find the right property management company, it doesn't have to be a disaster, and the idea that, like how you analyze markets. So I would love any kind of feedback from the community on that.
Yeah.
Would be super, super valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we come up with our best ideas, but you guys validate that, or you tell us that we don't have a really good idea, and all of that feedback would be really great. If I just think in the chat, if you guys can put something together of like your top things that you have gotten from this show, or the top things that you would like to learn, or what's on your mind. And I think it's a combination of kind of like what you may have been thinking about for a long time in your investing strategy, and also what's going on in the market today. And like, how do you match both of those things? So any feedback that you guys have, would love to get your insight. And the chat's a great place, or, reaching out to your portfolio manager at JWB, or scheduling time to talk with our team. We're open to feedback, because we're going to start spending a lot of money on this. We want to get it right.
Yeah, totally. All right. So with that said, now we got some great questions coming in here. Drew Barnhill, Ringmaster, wants to know, what state does JWB have the most investors in?
Madison, do you know?
I believe California.
Is it California?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I would have thought as well.
It was a close second, though.
Or it is close second. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So what we did is we actually broke down all of the states that all of our JWB clients live. And, it's mostly the states where home values are really high, and also equity is really high. So California is right there. Incomes are really high, which is out in California as well. And then if you just match all those ingredients with the education of how you can invest in a vertically integrated turnkey rental property, and you start to match it with that Jacksonville market, that's where you see this beautiful match being made of lots of clients from California and similar markets.
Love that. And we got a question here from Leo. He is asking, is this property, these numbers with a down payment of 30%? Looks like from the spreadsheet, the monthly cash flow is about $40 a month at 20 or 25%. At 20 or 25%, you'll get negative cash flow, and we'll have negative cash flow until year 7. ROI is still good. If you can only afford 20% at this point, what is your advice and opinion about it?
Great question, Leo. So this is a question we get a lot of times. Should I put 30% down? Should I put 25% down? Should I put 20% down? The reasons that you would want to put less money down is because at each one of those intervals, your expected return on investment actually goes up. So if I just simply changed the number for the percent down on this evaluation on Honda to 20%, the expected return would be higher than 12.36%. But the downside is that you don't get as much cash flow. And I don't have the numbers right in front of me. Go to the analysis conventionally finance tab. Let's just run through this with everybody. So the question is, what is my advice on whether to put down 30%, 25%, 20%? Yep. And yeah, let's see the return on investment. If we can get it in the same little screen there. Boom.
Can everybody see it? Let me know in the chat if you can see it.
All right.
Okay. Second.
There we go. Hey, yo.
Yeah.
Hey, yo. All right. So we're at a 12.36% return on investment. That's your IRR right there for 30% down. Now, and then your cash flow is $40 a month, like Leo was talking about. If you put 25% down there, let's take a look. Right? Return on investment actually jumps, right? Jumps, about a half point. You're almost at 13% here, but your monthly cash flow went down. What's happening here is you're using less of your own money, right? Which means you have more of a loan, which means that your cash flow is lower, but your return on investment is higher. All right. And then let's do one more. Let's put 20% down. All right. So 20% down. Now this thing skyrockets to almost a 14% return on investment. And your cash flow is negative at $131 a month. All right. So you got kind of like an interesting dynamic here. Do you want more return? How far are you willing to go to get higher returns when it comes to monthly cash flow? For all of you who are friends of the show, we believe in assets that pay for themselves every single month. And so when we work with clients, and for anybody who is a current client, if you'd like for us to analyze this for you, for your purchases or for your upcoming purchases, we're happy to do it. For anybody who's a new client, we offer the same service where we actually build your buying plan for you, and we go through these concepts with you. So we're happy to do this even before you buy a property with us. So just reach out to us, JWB chat or chat with jwb.com.
Got it.
But what you'll see is what we tell people is, number one, we need to be buying assets that pay for themselves. Here's how it makes sense to buy 20%. There are many clients that have other sources of income that would offset this $131 negative on this property every single month, right? You might have other properties. You might have other sources of income that can offset this negative cash flow. If you're in a place where you have that offsetting positive cash flow to offset this negative, then we're going to advise for you to put down 20% to get that higher return on investment. So we look at the entire picture, and that's when we would recommend and advise for folks to take advantage of 20% down. Because if you start stacking wins and earning 14% on your money, 14% on your money, 14% on your money, because you're using 20% down, then you're going to get to your passive income goal quicker. You're going to be able to buy more properties, which is going to increase the consistency and the diversification within your portfolio, and you're going to win. So if you have other income, other cash flow that can offset the negative, that's when we would advise 20% down or 25% down.
David Singy, who is a savvy, not your average investor, he's asking, when you put less percentage down on a down payment, doesn't that make the interest rate lenders give you go higher?
Yeah, that's a good point. It jumps up a little bit. So if you did 6.125%, or let's even do 6.25, we'll really go strong. It's usually not this much. Well, that's a lot.
Something broke.
You just did 625%. That would be a tough interest rate.
Not a good deal.
Nah, I wouldn't advise doing a 625% interest rate.
6.25.
Yeah.
All right.
There you go. So even if it jumps up a quarter point, if you put 20% down, you still are earning 13% on your money, versus if you put 30% down and you got a 6% rate, you would have earned about a 12.5% return on your money. So yeah, even if you account for what David's talking about, which is normally you do see a small bump in the rate when you go from 30 to 20, it still works in your favor.
Great question, young man. All right. So Nadim's got one more question that we get asked every once in a while. And he's asking, has JWB thought about solar on the new houses and older houses?
We have looked into it. We looked into it a number of years ago, and we came to the conclusion that it wasn't something that was the right thing for clients and for us to roll out. The reason you're hearing me kind of hesitate right now is I don't remember exactly what the numbers were on it, but there was a lot of logistical challenges for the solar when it comes to the utilities, when it comes to the resident experience, when it comes to the investment that you need to make in order to do it for all of our existing clients. So we have investigated. It was a number of years ago. Honestly, it's probably something to take a look at, because technology definitely changes in that regard. It's not something that's high on the priority list right now, but I'll bring it up in our business planning and see if it's something that we should take a look at again.
That would be interesting. And Drew's saying, Drew, who knows a little bit about just about everything, he's saying capital costs are prohibitive right now for solar. from the way I understand the solar market as well, and I haven't been like deep in it for a couple of years, but capital costs are high. Solar is highly driven by state rebates. So it's very local, right? Like we had Nathan Fabric on one of these shows, and he talks about it's not even so much about the sunshine ratio and whatever. It's like what state rebates are happening. Here in the state of Florida, we have kind of like a lobbying battle between energy providers and the solar industry, and the energy providers are arguing that, and they may or may not be right, but they're arguing that they can create solar farms that are much more efficient than everybody having a solar thing on their own thing. So they're getting the rebates as opposed to the homeowner. So, you know,
Interesting.
may or may not be true, might be just evil, big company doing it, or maybe it's actually true, right? If you look at the numbers, that doesn't account for like the individual independence and how you like to see competition happen and whatnot. I know we're mostly capitalists here.
Yeah. Eventually, maybe the capital costs should get down and will get down. Maybe it's a different equation then.
Yeah. And Gerard's asking about what's new federal tax credit. I'm not really 100% sure, Gerard. I don't think that, like, I love the fact that we've had the green show today.
Yeah,
Like,
I know, it's been great.
Like I'm super into it, but I'm also, like I don't know what the newest federal credit's going to do, and I think this whole I've heard that this inflation fighting bill that they're trying to pass has a bunch of like green energy investing embedded into it. I'm just not 100% sure on all of it, and especially not how it trickles down to the local state level and stuff like that.
Me either.
Well, all right. I think this has been an awesome one, GC.
Cool.
I think we're going to get out of here a little bit early. Next week, we're going back to our fan favorite, Not Your Average Market Insights, and we're going to be talking all about cash flow, the different insights around what is happening around cash flows in rental income properties. I think it's going to be super, super interesting. I love the Not Your Average Insight shows. I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We've gotten a lot of good feedback from everybody about it. So bring your thinking caps. If you got things that you want us to like comment on for that show, that's the wide open. We just kind of like riff, and it's going to be great. I really want to thank the community for showing up today, right? Like I think we're at 34 today. I think 34 is like the regulars that come every single week.
Yeah.
And that number is just insane to me, that you all come every single week, every single show. You take an hour of your day to be here with us. Really, really fills my bucket and my reusable water bottle. And we just couldn't do it without you. If you're listening on the podcast, if you're watching on YouTube, recommend it to a friend. We'd love to have your friend join us, and we'd love to have you join us. If you went to nyais.com, put it on your calendar, show up. It's going to be fun. GC, any last words?
No, this has just been a really fun, enjoyable, insightful chat. And, I just love this show has become so much fun, and it's just like no pressure. And it's just like a community of friends. It's just we get together to hang out in the middle of the workday. And you guys make that special. So thank you so much for making it what it is.
It's a lot of fun. Shout out to Wally Conway watching on Facebook. And remember, come on Tuesday, and in between now and then, just don't be average.